if you've got that pen in your hand and you start writing, or the keyboard in your hand, you start typing, you get about 2 paragraphs in and then you stop. It's like, I don't know. But guess what happens? If you were talking to someone and asking them some really pointed questions about their business, they come to life and you can't shut them up. I would say to you that the most important thing is your message that you're getting out to your market, being seen as that expert and authority, teaching your target audience things that show that you're the expert, and then you pick your medium. And definitely people still in their mind feel like, wow, they're an author. That's going to open up some doors. Or the video or the podcasting. It really just is the medium that you are going to use. You need to be watching and wringing out of everything you're doing opportunity, and every interaction you have with someone. Maybe it's an email, or maybe you're talking with someone online in a Facebook group.
And that's next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Hey listeners and viewers, we have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. Come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. That is bootstrapping.group. If you like this video, do not forget to hit that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button and give us your feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. Today we'll be talking with Mike Saunders. So Mike is an authority positioning coach. He helps young entrepreneurs break out of their zone of obscurity and amplify their hidden expertise to a position of prestige and expertise in their respective industry. He is the author of Amazon best-selling book, Authority Selling. He is a contributor to Huffington Post and adjunct marketing professor at several universities and member of the Forbes Coaches Council. Let's welcome Mike. Mike, we are so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Manuj. Appreciate the time to come on your show.
Awesome. So let's get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? How did you get to this position of teaching other people how to become an authority?
Yeah, so my journey actually would have begun when I went back to school at the age of 40 after the economic meltdown in the United States here. And I went back and did my MBA in marketing. And during that period, one of the classes said for a business plan or a marketing plan, hey, pick a company you might like to start and let's build a plan for that. So I did. I thought, I always loved marketing. I was in the mortgage banking business. And so I did the business plan on a marketing consulting firm, and it just started to grow from there. It's kind of like once something comes into your mind, you start thinking more about that and you interview some people. And so I started my firm, and for the first handful of years, because this was now 10 years ago that I started this, and I began to do what most people do, and many of your listeners, I'm confident, are doing it right now, is I became all things to all people. And that's a problem. That is a big, big problem because you never become really, really good at something. So I would do social media marketing for one client, text message marketing for another, search engine optimization for another, email marketing for another. And that became just so commoditized. And about 4 years ago, I decided to really, really hone in on what I felt like at the time was the most important thing in marketing, because I started noticing what was working for me. And what the kind of like my epiphany moment was you always hear about, oh, you ought to be an author, you ought to write a book. So I put my first book together, wrote it on business, social media, and I remember taking it to this conference room where I was in the room with a bunch of small business development center because I consult for the SBDC. So I was in the room with a bunch of the consultants, and I said, oh, hey, my first book came out. Here you go. And I hand out copies. And it was like they just would thought that was the coolest thing ever. And right after that, one of them said, hey, I teach over at this university. Can you come in and do a guest lecture? I did that. And then that turned into a $9,000 teaching contract. So the light bulb for me went off where it's like, hold on, that person would have never thought to bring me in and speak unless I had that book. And then that book never would have gotten me that contract. So I started focusing on how else and what can I provide my clients to help them be elevated in that same fashion. And so it just went on from there. And now I just really focus on, what you said in my intro, which is helping people, entrepreneurs, become seen, known, and perceived as that expert and authority in whatever industry that you're in. It doesn't matter.
Awesome. That's an amazing story. And actually, this is the second time in this week somebody has said that they started a marketing plan while they were studying their MBA, and that turned into a real business.
That's funny.
That's amazing. Yeah. Exactly. So that's a pretty good way to publish a book and then distribute it and get leads. Now let's go a little bit deeper. A lot of people are intimidated about writing books,
Yes.
or they may think they do not even have an idea in their head that is worthy of writing a book. So let's talk about how easy it is to write a book, and then we'll go in other directions and see what we can uncover from your expertise.
And that's a huge point, because I think if a lot of people were asked, hey, can you write a blog post of about 2,000 words? So it's a nice, meaty, research-driven blog post. They would kind of, get a little frustrated, like, I don't think I can even do that. So yes, you're right, Manuj. A book is a big old process. But here's what I take a different approach than most people do. I don't focus on a book for the sake of a book. It's not like, let's tell your life story and it's a Pulitzer Prize winning book. No, it's a business development book for one reason and one reason only: getting you do business. And I've said for years that there's a disconnect between your head and your hands regarding writing. So if you're going to write a blog post, book, whatever you want to think about, if you've got that pen in your hand and you start writing, or the keyboard in your hand, you start typing, you get about 2 paragraphs in and then you stop. It's like, I don't know. But guess what happens? If you were talking to someone and asking them some really pointed questions about their business, they come to life and you can't shut them up.
Yeah.
So what I do is I strategically craft a whole series of questions that really dive in deep about someone's business. How did you start, and what are some problems you solve, and what are the solutions you provide, and what's the pros and the cons and misconceptions and case study, all of these things, right? And it's put together in a really specific way. We first start with this, mindset, and then this piece, and then this piece, and end with it really becomes a very easy flow of an interview. And literally I've had people go, I don't know what to say. And I said, here's the questions. Just know what you're going to say. Don't write out a script. Just kind of know your business, because you know your business. And after the interview, they go, oh my goodness, that was the easiest, most fun thing ever. Well, what happens is, depending on, like, we're talking about book at the moment, but a book can be a really large project. So just in simple terms, what I would say is, okay, hey, what's your budget for investment? If it's like a full on, I want to do a book for me, or I own a team and I would love to do a book for our team where the owner does the first chapter and then each team leader is doing chapters and we're going to use it as a team. However you're thinking of it, it really doesn't matter. We just do a series of these interviews, all specifically focused on one thing, which is, and I know you've heard this, Manuj, the buyer's journey. Well, if I were to say, hey, it's not off the tip of your tongue that most people know your clients and prospects buyer's journey, but let's think about that. What are some things that they will come to the conclusion through their questions and decisions in making a decision to work with you, whatever that might be? And it goes way deeper than frequently asked questions. It goes really into, like, the old Mike Koenig's, I learned it from him years ago, should ask questions. The SAQs, like, if they knew these questions, they would really get it. And if you go deep and can space out, let's just say in a 20-minute podcast interview, if I could interview you about these 2 should ask questions. That's it. We're not going to talk about the history of your company again. We're going to talk about just these two things. So that listener, or ultimately the reader, will fully understand the power of those two questions and how you solve the problem. Well, whether it's a 10 chapter book or a 1 chapter overview in a book, the point is you just simply talk about your business and I guide you through it so that at the end, it becomes literally your best sales pitch ever. So
Awesome.
simply from that, you just take those easy interviews that just came to life and we transcribe it, send it to proofing, editing, smooth it out so it's a nice quick read, and boom, there is your book. And I've got a package where it's a really low price point where you're just included in a book called Expert Profiles, and you're in with a whole bunch of other people, and your chapter is number 1, your picture's on the cover, your name's on the cover, and hey, you could use that as a lead generation tool. But the point is to think about is these two really key points. What are the 3 or 4 main points in your buyer's journey that really sets your company apart as a competitive advantage that we can talk about? And secondly, at the end of that interview, that becomes your best sales pitch ever. If someone listened to that or read that, you would be understood and head and shoulders above the competition, because your competition is spouting off, oh, and this and that and the other feature and benefit. No, you are walking them through this series of strategic points to consider. And they're like, yeah, that's a good point. Ooh, I hadn't considered that. Ooh, that would be a problem. Oh, that's a good case study. Hey, he is the or she is the solution. So that's the whole point. And through that, you are a educator and an advocate for your target audience, because you're not pushing. You're not selling, you're telling, you're educating, you're helping them understand. And that comes across so much better than just, here's my thing, buy it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, if I understood you correctly, like, is writing a book sort of a key ingredient to establishing your authority in the marketplace?
Well, let me ask or answer that question with this. What are the first 6 letters in the word authority?
A-U, A-U-T-H-O-R. Yeah, author.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey. So yeah, I feel like it really is. And the reason that I mentioned those 2 options where, hey, here's this book where it's all about you, only you, that's a big project. But sometimes people say, hey, that's kind of a little bit bigger project, a little bit bigger investment. Let's have a smaller investment. And I'm fine to be in a compilation book of experts from across the country, because this person might be an attorney, someone else might be talking about a chiropractor, and your business might be, pest control or plumbing. It doesn't really matter, but that one is a nice small price point. So that gets you into the fact of being able to say to your target audience, hey, look, I was featured in this book. Here's a copy, or hey, here's a press release where I was mentioned. So a book is a major piece of that, but the other 2 elements that I feel are, I teach where one of the biggest important things that you must do in your business in marketing is develop an authority positioning portfolio. And it really is like a fashion designer that says, hey, look at my dress designs, or a website designer, here's all my website designs. What do you like? So an authority positioning portfolio is a collection of all the places where you're seen as an authority. So you literally will just start collecting these things. And it's like, oh, here's the book I wrote, the podcast I was on, the news media that I was featured in, whatever those assets are, it's in this now authority positioning portfolio that you can use to position yourself as that authority. And through my simple, easy, done for you packages, I fast track it by saying, like, the being featured in that book, Expert Profiles, it's literally a 20-minute phone interview on my podcast. That's all you do. You're done. And my team does the rest and delivers the spectacular authority positioning portfolio that you then can use in your social media, email, website, physical, when you're meeting with people. I mean, think about this. Whatever business that your listeners are in, or Manuj, even you, if you're going to meet with someone next week and you're going to drive over to Starbucks and you walk in and you go, hey, it's great to connect with you. Hey, here's a copy of my book I was recently featured in, and I've got this MP3 flash drive here with some of my recent podcast interviews that I think you'll enjoy. if you sent that ahead of the meeting and you walked in, you're coming in as an expert. Or even if it was a leave behind, hey, it's great to chat. Let's circle back next week and talk about our proposal. I want to leave you with these things here. Now they've got something that separates you from the competition. Are they going to read every word of that featured in the book or every syllable of that podcast interview? Probably not, but they're going to fan through it just enough to go, Manuj was featured. That's pretty cool. And I'm going to listen to that podcast interview because I can do that while I'm driving. And now they see you as that trusted trusted resource and authority rather than a salesperson.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Now, you also brought up this point. Like you need to push your creation, like distribution, printing a book, writing a book, or recording a podcast. That takes a lot of energy. That takes a lot of thought process, but it amounts to nothing unless you are able to distribute it, push it to the crowds, and sort of make it seen in the world. So what are your strategies around that? You already shared one, which is one-to-one sort of sharing your own content with your prospective clients. But what are some of the other strategies you can use?
Yep, I'll give you a few ideas, and you're exactly right, because you can't say, yay, here's my fill in the blank, whatever it is, my media I was featured in, my book. It doesn't matter. That doesn't mean droves of people come to you. In fact, I've even heard that some people that get on the New York Times bestseller list, sometimes those people aren't just now thrust into the stratosphere of new clients because there's so much going on in our life. We see this book and that book and this thing, and sometimes you feel like the pinnacle is get on the New York Times bestseller list, and sometimes that doesn't even do it for you. So it is imperative that you take these authority positioning assets that you have created for you, and then you continue to create them. As a side note there, you can't just have one podcast interview you were on and go, yay, I checked that box. You've got to continually be on interviews, and you have a strategy behind what you're saying in them, because each of these assets, whether it's being featured in a book or being interviewed on a podcast, you should have this one that you're going to put in your files and go, okay, this one I talked about this really important element of my business and this problem that my target audience has. So when people then are communicating with you, so here now is the answer to your question, what do you do and how do you distribute it? Well, in your incoming social media or email, hey Manuj, how do you do this, and what are your thoughts about? You go, oh, that's a really good point. I was just interviewed on a podcast about that exact topic. Here's the link, listen to it and let me know what you think. In fact, come back here and post your thoughts here in the Facebook or wherever that you got that from. So you need to use it in your business development and communication. And sometimes, people even say, well, I've got that FAQ section on my website. Well, that's nice, but who goes through and clicks on all the questions and reads the answers? But what if you had an FAQ section that goes, here's the top 5 questions that my clients told me that they had before they hired me, and they love the solution that we provide. Question number 1. Whatever. And then right under it was podcast interview. And you go, this is where I was talking all about this one problem. Click here to listen to this. What if you strategically had 5 to 7 of really, really hard pressing questions, and the answers you provided weren't in some paragraph form. It was on a podcast interview, and you put the player right there. You embed the player and you go, find the answer to this question right here. I mean, that's a vibrant FAQ section on your website or social media or email.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Now I'll ask for a question which is more of an opinion. Obviously, you may not be like give a authority answer on this, but I'll ask it anyway. Like, reading books, the readership is going down. People don't read anymore these days. Will you agree with that statement? What is your opinion about that?
I don't agree with it because I feel that you can even just Google Amazon's numbers, and they are saying that book sales and book consumption is on the rise. In fact, I even saw a recent stat that the physical book ratio between physical books and Kindle the gap is closing, because it used to be, a handful of years ago, everyone's reading Kindle. They don't want to carry books around. And then now there's a shift back to people reading books. I will say, though, that you're right in the fact that there are other things vying for our attention rather than holding a book in your hand, which is podcasting. And I'll say this about a book. Sometimes it is not the fact that you're going to hand your book. Maybe you wrote your own book or had it written with you, like the process I described. And the whole book's about you. Chapter 1's about all of the things you do to help your clients, and chapter 2 is about all the success stories. Well, you can hand that book to your best prospect ever and call them back 2 weeks later and go, "Hey, what'd you think of the book?" And they go, "I got through the introduction, but got busy."
Yeah.
The power of writing or being featured in your own book is the fact that you were there. Not necessarily that, I mean, it's a win times 1,000% when they do read it and understand it, because it is your best sales pitch ever. But if and when they don't, you still get almost, I'm going to go 90% of the impact is still made. The fact that they see it's your book with your picture and your name on it, case closed. But I will say that so many people today are going to other forms of consumable authority positioning content or assets like podcasting and videos. Now, you can talk to people that are pushing videos and go, "That's the biggest medium," and other people are like, "No, podcasting is." The point is, you got to do what you feel you're going to do most frequently and most consistently. And I will just say that I've got a video clip from Gary Vee where he's just really saying the power of podcasting, and you can see stats online where podcasting is just going through the roof. It's really closing the gap between that video. And I'll ask you this, Manuj, have you ever seen what I experienced many times, which is you're watching a video online, and because I watch a lot of video content and webinars and things, and they're using a player where like Wistia, for instance, if you move from the browser from what you're watching the video to another browser to kind of multitask, it stops the video, and you're like, "Oh, I'm happy to listen to this thing. I don't need to watch the guy, his mouth move. I want to listen to it." But they constrict you to have to keep that browser open. Well, with a podcast, that's not the case. You can listen to it on your iTunes MP3 player, computer, phone, it doesn't matter. So I would say to you that the most important thing is your message that you're getting out to your market, being seen as that expert and authority, teaching your target audience things that show that you're the expert, and then you pick your medium. And definitely people still in their mind feel like, "Wow, they're an author. That's going to open up some doors." Or the video or the podcasting. It really just is the medium that you are going to use the most consistently.
Awesome, that's great. And now let's talk about the whole mechanics of it. As you said, you need to be on a different medium like podcasts and books, and social media also is a very big part of this whole strategy. And it obviously takes a lot of time, and especially for startup founders, solopreneurs, it's a lot of work. So, what do you think should be the ratio of time devoted to this whole process versus your core business?
Well, do you remember the phrase content marketing?
Yeah.
I don't know, 8-10 years ago, that hit the scene, and that was the hottest thing ever. Content marketing. It's not pushing ads at people; it's teaching them. And if you remember the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, that's what he was talking about, is educating people. Well, content marketing now is not a thing anymore. And you know why it's not a thing anymore? Is because it should just be good marketing anyway. It's just marketing strategy. You don't need to call it anything. So we've moved the needle to teaching and educating people in our marketing through our content. So the answer to your question, I would say, is because you must have good content, pick something that you can get multiple uses out of. So here's what I mean. And I wrote an article for my Forbes column about, I don't know, a handful of months ago. And it was on this exact topic. Our time is busy. We can't go and do all these 14 different things every single day. But if we could do this one thing and use it here, and then we repurpose it here and repurpose it to this other place, wow, we've done one activity, and that got us so much. So here's what that activity could be. Some people would cringe, and I've given presentations at small business workshops, and I'll say, "Okay, see," and in fact, there happened to be a camera sitting in the back. It wasn't being used. I said, "See that video camera in the back? I'm going to, at the break, I'm going to grab that, and we're going to go row to row to row, and I'm going to interview each one of you." And I said, I wish, as soon as I said that, I said, "I wish that I could video your responses," because so many people are like, "Oh, I don't know, video." So if that's how you feel about video, don't do Facebook Lives. But if you feel like I can sit in front of my webcam and do a Facebook Live, great. Do a video and talk about some of these, critical things in your business. Talk about a success story, a case study, a a should ask question, and do a quick snippet. Let's just call it 10 or 15 minutes. Do a teaching on your Facebook Live. And now that becomes a Facebook Live, but it also becomes a video you can put on your LinkedIn and all the different platforms, your blog. But guess what else you can do? You can strip out the audio and that becomes a podcast episode. And guess what else you can do? You can go to Temi, Temi, which is a division of Rev, and you can upload. In fact, have you ever heard of Temi, Manuj?
I have, yeah.
I use them frequently. I used them just last week. You upload your audio file to Temi and it transcribes it literally within 5 to 10 minutes with 80-90% accuracy. It's AI, so it's going to have a little bit of inaccuracy, but it's 10 cents a minute. So you can upload a 20-minute podcast or video episode, and you're paying $2. Big deal. Yeah. But the cool thing with the inaccuracies, you have this little the page where you've got the transcript. If there was a word that you're like, they didn't get that right, you click play and you can hear what you were saying, and you're like, okay, pause. That's what I was saying, and you just correct it right there, and now you've got the transcript, and that becomes blog post, Facebook content, all from that one event.
Awesome. That's great. Sorry, I was trying to interject there. There's another service called Otter, OTTER.ai, and it does exactly what Temi does. And in some cases, it's actually more accurate, and it's 100% free. So check it out.
Oh, that's a good, anything free is worth checking out. And, and then of course, like your grandpa and my grandpa told you, you get what you pay for. So if you want the higher end stuff, then like the Rev, it's $1 a minute, and that's really, really good accuracy. But anyway, otter.ai, is that what it is, or .io?
That's right. No, AI.
Okay, good. Yeah, free resource. That works really well.
Exactly. Now let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. You said that you were going through some financial constraint during the financial crisis. What was that journey like? How did you develop your mindset to go into entrepreneurship and grow the business? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, the struggle was the economy just collapsed, and I pivoted from financial services into marketing consulting and starting my own firm in the depths of the economic crisis. So not the best time to start that, but it was really something where you just got to get creative and network and really grind. And I think the biggest thing that you've heard this for years and years, do a huge amount of work on yourself. You hear the Jim Rohns of the world and Tony Robbins that'll say personal development, find that strength, personally, business, spirituality, all of those ways that you can be strong mentally. And you need to learn about your business. You read the Malcolm Gladwell tipping point, and you hear about the 10,000 hours. That means that what I was mentioning at the beginning of our talk about, I was trying to do text message marketing. I was trying to do, that wasn't cutting it because I had to be the expert in that thing. So you got to get 10,000 hours strong in whatever the thing it is you're doing. So that's your industry training. Then you need to do training on yourself personally. So goal setting and mindset and all of these things. And then that can carry you through. And I would just say that just like the example I gave about doing one thing, like one teaching and repurposing it into different things, you need to be watching and wringing out of everything you're doing opportunity. And every interaction you have with someone, maybe it's an email or maybe you're talking with someone online in a Facebook group, watch for opportunities because they will present themselves. And sometimes if you're so busy, you're just trying to move on to the next thing, you're going to miss it. But sometimes it's like, oh, well, you know what? You're a member of this. Hey, I wonder if we would do this joint presentation online together. We could probably, get some business for ourselves together because you're a member and I'm a member. So, I mean, just watching for opportunities to have strategic alliances, I think is a really huge, huge, powerful piece.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now let's talk about some of the mistakes that you may have made. So as you said, like one of the mistakes were trying to do too many things. Is there anything else that sort of comes to mind that taught you a big lesson that you can share with us today?
I would say it is shiny object syndrome. is seeing things like, ooh, I want to grow my business. So you can't be online or on social media today without seeing things that could increase your business, right? And I would just say, mistakes that I made is how many times have I bought something thinking it was going to be the salvation to everything, and A, it wasn't, or B, I didn't implement it well because I saw the next shiny thing that I jumped on, and I didn't give the first thing enough chance to even work or not. Because you hear some people, like some of these, whatever, it doesn't even matter, the solution. You see these testimonials, you're like, how in the world are they getting that? And I tried it. Well, the point is, you use that T word. I tried it. Well, you didn't give it enough time to work. You didn't really focus in on it. So shiny object syndrome is so devastating for that reason, but it also is devastating because it creates this inner turmoil and tension, because it's like, I'm looking for the next best thing. I'm looking for the next best thing. This is it. This is it. No, it's not. And it just really is something you got to go, look, here's some, in football, now football season starting, and I'm in Colorado, so it's, go Broncos. So the football, vernacular is blocking and tackling. We don't need to get fancy plays, just block well and tackle well, and a lot of that foundational stuff. So what is blocking and tackling in our business? What are some of the basic things we need to grow a business? Do those, and just do a little teeny bit of, polish and glitz on top of those. But you don't need to get fancy. You don't need bots or, I know there's a place for everything out there, but most of the time, it's just find out who your target audience is and just talk to them. Just see what they need and tell them you're not going to sell them anything, and learn from them. Do some research and see what their needs are. And then when you go back to the next person, you know how your product or service can solve those needs. So I think that for me, shiny object syndrome is every day. You fight that every day. You never get over it, I don't think.
Awesome. Great advice. And now, when you start off, as you said it, and you went through some tough times, as I remember those times. It was really hard to start a business, first of all. And then once you start a business, how do you get your first client? So what was your experience getting your first client in that atmosphere?
I think for me, it was just going out and talking to people and letting them know what you're doing. You can't just hang your shingle and go, I'm whatever, and have people come to you. So for me, it was talking to people and letting them know, for instance, I think for me, it was like, hey, I'm doing this project for, my MBA class, and I wanted to interview you about whatever. And they're like, oh, hey, we ought to talk because that would help my business. So it's almost kind of like, maybe that should be a strategy every day. Just kind of go, hey, I'm doing some research. Can you tell me what the struggle is in your business? And I know that there's a lot of strategies out there, like called the ask strategy, where, it's like a survey. And that really is the approach, where you're just asking questions. And you could even kind of do this. Hey, what if some of these authority positioning things I really like, but I don't know where to start. I don't have my own book. Well, why don't you just start talking to people in your network, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your email list, and get them on the phone. Just talk to them and go, hey, I'm doing some research. Can I chat with you real quick? And just ask them questions about the industry you're in, the industry they're in, and almost be like a roving reporter. Say, I'm writing up a piece. You don't even need to say for who. It's going to be for your blog. So I'm writing a piece, doing some research. Can I pick your brain a little bit? Well, yeah. And ask questions. And what do you struggle with? And what keeps you up at night? And hey, what if there was a solution where, and don't you dare mention your solution, but just go, hey, thanks for that. I'm doing some research here. I'll let you know how it goes. Well, talk to 5 or 10 people, get that research, write a blog post, article, whatever, and get it back to them and go, hey, thanks for your insight. Here's the article that I came up with. And hey, if there's ever anything I can do to help your business, let me know. Well, that could really open up the door to possibility. So I think that that's another little piece that we can keep in mind.
Great. Well, it seems like you have it all figured out. You were such a master at this. You have shared so many, all these different little strategies, which are so easy to implement. They do not cost a lot of money. So thank you a lot for sharing that wisdom.
You're welcome, Manuj.
Yeah. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us how people can reach out to you and talk about probably hiring you for writing a book?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And remember, writing a book is a big project, a larger investment. So being featured in a book is a 20-minute investment of time and a much lower price point. But you can find out about that on my website, authoritypositioningcoach.com. I've got a really neat, you can sign up for the Authority Positioning Manifesto. It's a 50-page PDF, and it's really powerful. In fact, I did a Authority and Influence Summit a while back where I interviewed some of the big names in the business, including Bob Berg and Tom Hopkins and a lot of people that are in authority and expertise. And so when you sign up for the email to get the Authority Positioning Manifesto, you will get 3 video interviews that I did with some of these people, and some of them are just so powerful. And one of the interviews that I really love that you get for free is with John Ruhlin, who wrote the book Giftology, and he has a really powerful strategy. I just think it's so good. You'll love the interview. I talk about that in the Authority Positioning Manifesto, so you can pick that up at authoritypositioningcoach.com.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you.
And that's all for now. Until next time. And if you are an existing or an aspiring tech entrepreneur, then I invite you to check out my new online workshop, Bootstrapping Your Tech Startup Dreams. Go to bootstraptechstartup.com and sign up for free. I want to make sure that more successful and sound decisions are made every day in your tech projects. Let's start finding solutions to your problems. So go to bootstraptechstartup.com, and I look forward to helping you with your tech projects. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.